Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton Agenda Awani secara langsung dari studio Awani Bukit Kewangan Kuala Lumpur. Dan malam ini saya cukup berbangga kerana seorang tamu khas yang datangnya jauh dari persada antarabangsa. Dan mungkin ibu bapa saya lebih mengenali beliau berbanding saya. Tetapi itulah konteks yang ingin dibincangkan, dan terutamanya jika anda pergi ke pesta buku baru ini, anda akan nampak buku ini versi bahasa Inggeris, ada juga versi bahasa Malaysia. Dan ini menceritakan kisah perjalanan bukan saja seorang tokoh, tetapi juga kisah perjalanan Islam di dunia ini dalam konteks 70-an hinggalah sekarang, dan persepsi terutamanya masyarakat di barat terhadap Islam. Dalam konteks itu, I would like now to speak in English because I would like to welcome my very honored guest for today, Yusuf Islam. Thank you so much for making time to be on the show. Maybe if I can start, why this book is so important to you, in a sense, because when I was reading it, you know, it's really you pouring it out as the world as you see it, especially after the 70s, moving on. And maybe you can share that with the Malaysian audience, because it's not always that we have a chance for the writer and author of the book to really share the main gut feel behind this book.
Well, essentially, it's about communication. For so many years, I have had to rely on second-hand, or people have had to rely on second-hand information about me and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So when I first started to communicate, it was with music, you know, and that was pretty straightforward because people could get the lyrics direct. But then there was always the problem of you know, interviews, and then in interviews, people never quite got the picture. You know, they get little glimpses, little snapshots, little sayings, sound bites. Then when I became a Muslim in 1977, there was a whole new interpretation into my life. You know, and people, especially in the West, started to get a very negative about my life and about my choice, my freedom of choice. And so from that point, since then, you know, from that time to now, it's mostly been, people have been subjected to a lot of rumors and misinformation and these kind of weird, kind of satirical snapshots of my life. So this is a chance for me to go direct, lay it out. I'm actually making music again, and that's the subject of the book, is why am I carrying you know, a guitar still, or why am I still playing the guitar? But I go into many more issues than just the music issue in this book.
Because it was 25 years that you were not performing, and in a chapter in the book, it was described how it was quite also a painful thing for you to leave what you were doing since the 60s at that time, and there was that moment with your friends and that convinced you to go. But from then on, 25 years later, you decided to pick up the guitar again. But this time, with more purpose, with an absolute truth behind the decision. And even then, when I was a small kid in the 70s, your lyrics were always about searching for something, like a journey that the viewers will be listening to. It's just that this time, you know the purpose of the journey and you know where the destination of the journey is.
Exactly, and it's true that, you know, my decision was not sudden. In fact, in the beginning, I must tell you this story, that my last record was called Back to Earth. It was 1978. And it was, my name was still Cat Stevens on the record label. And because I was Muslim at that time, I heard that you should say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, everything that you do. And so I put Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim on the record. And then the first criticism I got was from Malaysia. And there was a big storm. And they said, this is wrong, you cannot do this, it's haram. I'm going, I never saw anything in the Quran about music being forbidden. So that started the whole, if you like, questioning. And of course, it's taken me a long time. I decided to give up the music, really not to just say that I don't want anything more to do with it, but I had more important things to do.
Discovery.
Yeah, I was discovering, I was making a life for myself. You know, when I was a teenager, I was in in show business. And, you know, that's not real. In a way, you're living a kind of an illusionary existence. People imagine you to be much bigger than you are, and you're sort of still you, you know. And so, in a way, I wanted to find out who I was and to be who I was. So I changed my name. You know, I changed my name to Yusuf, but people still remember me as Cat. So I think that kind of build-up was very important, and I think that in the end, I'm trying to now, after I've concluded on the issue of music, it's like communication. Anything in communication can be good or bad. Yes. You know, you can show disgusting things, or you can show very healthy things. People have a choice, and I think that in this environment of choice, we must be providing more positive, you know, art and creativity, because the Muslim world has been looked upon as rather uncreative for the last, I don't know, you know, 500, maybe 800 years. 1,000 years ago, maybe we can see that there was great science, great knowledge, great wisdom and teaching in the Muslim world, and we were the center.
You are a very, very deep reader. Ever since the first day in the 70s when your brother brought you back that piece of Quran from the Middle East. And I have to go for the first commercial break, but once we are back, and you know, I like the part where you put in the book where for someone who already at the tip of the mountain, surrounded by clouds, they never realize how high they are. But for you to climb from the very foot of the mountain to go up, so you see a lot, and you have really delved and studied about whether or not you should be doing what you're doing now. So maybe I want to ask you to share that journey of knowledge for over 20 years of you studying that what can and cannot be done in Islam, and bringing back the vibrancy of Islam as we know it before, a long, long time ago. That after the short break. Masih menonton Agenda Awani. Saya masih bersama dengan Yusuf Islam. Oleh itu saya akan berbicara dalam bahasa Inggeris. The spiritual journey of Cat Stevens to Yusuf. We were discussing just now, and you've given a brief overview. But you know, this is also a knowledge-based struggle for you, and it has been a long road. And I think you've read so many books, because look at, and Allah have given you so many people to meet in London, in Mecca, and everywhere else. So if you can share, I know it's not easy to cram 3 decades of searching for knowledge, but if you can sum it up for us.
Well, in the beginning, you must realize that, of course, that most Muslims are born into the faith, into the house, which already has the culture of Islam. For me, to discover Islam, it was a direct intravenous, you may say, approach, because I didn't have to go through any cultural training. It was purely the message. And so that, as you said quite rightly, it's the knowledge base. And when I first received the Quran, I was a little bit hesitant, because, you know, Muslims have a pretty bad image. Forget about today, even yesterday.
In the 70s,
it was negative.
Okay.
It was always, you know, concubines and harems and flying carpets and, you know, Aladdin and the genie, all that kind of imagery. It was a little bit harmless, though, but there was a negative side. So I didn't feel relaxed. But then I said, no, I'm a free thinker. You know, as you can see from my songs, I open my doors to all, you know, to anything that I can learn about life. And then when I discovered what the Quran was, I said, to me, I said, this is the biggest secret. Either, you know, there's been a great conspiracy, or we've all had our ears and our eyes shut in the West.
And you were trying to find something that might be wrong about it, you know,
True, exactly. Our first thing I wanted to do, you know, because any book you think, well, there's going to be mistakes. There's bound to be mistakes. Something I don't agree with. But I kept on reading, and all the time I kept on reading, it just kept on getting better and better, and I realized that the problem was with me. You know, it's when you start to account to yourself or criticize yourself that you really can start to progress. You know, if you think you're perfect, you're not going to get anywhere. So I learned so many things, but the big thing that I learned was about God. There is no other book in this world that explains the true attributes of God, and the way in which the Quran includes other religions is also extremely unique. You know, you won't find in the Bible a very clear picture of other religions. You'll have one dogmatic, you know, view. which is good, but it doesn't include the whole ambit of religious thought and spiritualism. That was the other big difference for me. Then, of course, I come to the point where I want to pray, and I start to pray, and then one person will tell me, well, this is the way to pray, and another person will say, well, yeah, but this way is not quite like that. You have to do this. And now I find there's 4 schools of thought, you know, and then there's the Shia school of thought. And I went, what do I do? So I do what I feel is the right thing. I go to the Quran and I go to the Hadith as much as possible to get to the accurate, authentic Hadith, which explains the Quran, because the Quran is the perfect book. And that's how I started to develop the knowledge, and that was really what drove me to reading as many commentaries and as many Hadith and, you know, books on Islam as possible. I'm not learned, but because I've been a practical person, we started schools. When I began a family, I had children. I said, what am I going to do with my children? So which school am I going to send them? So then I had to establish a Muslim school in Britain. And because of all these processes, I came face to face, chalk face, you may say, with the knowledge. And this is the biggest problem, I think, in the Muslim world today, is that the lack of in-depth knowledge, and perhaps that so many people rely on others to explain to them what the religion is.
Ijtihad is very
Ijtihad is absolutely.
We go for the last break, but once we are back, specifically about music and performing arts. And after more than 2 decades, you are now saying that this is a harmonious way to bring the whole ummah of the world to peace, as should be by what Islam has been given to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'm going to get you to explain that and more, and what you're doing currently to spread the word. That we'll discuss after this break. Dahulunya dikenali sebagai Cat Stevens, sekarang dengan nama Yusuf Islam, seorang yang begitu banyak menyumbangkan jasa dan tenaga bukan saja kepada perkembangan Islam tapi juga untuk tujuan-tujuan kemanusiaan. I would like to continue where we are. There's never enough time with great people. The part where you were searching to be able to searching for any science that says that you can do this in Islam, to come back to performing arts. For example, when in the early parts of the book, there were people who tell you when you first embrace Islam, don't do that anymore, you go to hell, something like that, you know, you can play the guitar, but you don't go on stage. Someone else will say, no, don't do the guitar at all. So what about now, after you have found the answers for yourself?
Like most things which have 2 opinions, you know, you have to give allowance for people to, you know, take a position maybe different from yourself. I took the position in the beginning just to be very cautious. I didn't blame anybody who did music as being outside of Islam. I just said that's their opinion, but for me, I wanted to be cautious. And then I think that what happened was very important. It came the Bosnia tragedy, you know, the war. And we wanted to help as much as possible. When we started our relief work in Bosnia, I found that these Muslims who were suffering so terribly with no weapons, no defense, no big power to help, save them or to relieve them of this situation. In fact, everybody, it seemed, were conspiring to allow this thing to happen. They had these songs, and these songs started to hit me, like I'd never been hit before. And I realized how music has the power or the ability to raise the spirit. Of course, the Quran is the final word. Yes. But when it comes to human, speech, we talk to each other. We don't talk Quran all the time. We can't do that. Yeah. It would be impossible. So we talk in the human language, and one of the languages which has been there from the beginning of the creation is music. Everything in this universe has a sound, has a harmony. Even the way in which the planets are working, there's the scale, which all reflects the musical mathematics of what turns out to be beautiful. Okay. Right? If you put things in the wrong order or the chords in the wrong, it doesn't. It's discordant. Like, yeah. You feel upset, and so it also helps, I think, when we're in such a terrible position to raise the spirit. That was the beginning. I started work with making children's albums. I wrote a song called A is for Allah. Many children have grown up with that song. I did an album called I Look, I See. It was one of the most popular albums, I think, for children in the West, who speak English. And from there, it was just a gradual realization with the study that this issue needs to be included in our agenda. It cannot be excluded. Fiqh is not a thing to build a wall so that you can hide behind. Fiqh is actually it's a key to solving your situation that you find yourself. If you are constricted, fiqh is supposed to give you a way out. And so that's when I started to balance all the information. And like in communication, there's good and there's bad. It's not all one thing. But we need more of the good.
Do you think it's more crucial now for the harmonization of the words and messages of Islam through that? Because especially post 9/11, this is a more complex world, more sensitive world, and a more hateful world from a certain point of view.
That's the dilemma that I found. The moment I embraced Islam, you see, when I embraced Islam, it was very quiet. There was no big news, no front pages. Then came the Iranian Revolution. Then came Afghanistan, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Then came the Intifada. Suddenly, Islam was front page, let alone what happened in 2001 with the 9/11. So because of this negativism, music is one of the languages we can speak. If you can't speak the language, then leave it to somebody who can speak the language. Don't criticize, if somebody is able to communicate a good message and to make people feel good about Islam again. So that's my basic philosophy. But I do believe that education and spreading more knowledge, is vital. So today's media, the journalists are like the recognition of the presence of Allah in, the creator of this universe is as distant as the furthest, galaxy. They don't know about it. They don't know. And so this is the crucial issue that we should be also, delivering.
You're writing again, and you're performing again, you're going on tour again. So do you feel a different this time after so many years as compared to when you first started doing all that back in the 60s, 70s? Is there more purpose and light, or personally, from your own personal view of it?
Absolutely. To be honest, the songs that I sing old songs as well, because I think the heart and soul of my music was always seeking. And so they were quite honest. And if I didn't know something, I would say, I don't know. I wrote a song called I Wish I Knew, I Wish I Knew. Yes. Because I didn't know. And so I think those songs still stand up today. Morning is Broken, Peace Train, Islam, has as at the root, Salam, So Peace Train, my goodness, I can sing that. And so many new songs now which are coming to my mind because the clarity has become, that much more vivid. Before, I was looking in the dark. Now I have a light, so I can see my way. But it's the same world.
And do you feel that the audience, at least some of them, now they can contact you through so many ways as compared to 60s, 70s, social media and stuff. Are they also seeing that light from what you're doing?
Oh, there's many, many good messages which I'm receiving. You would be very surprised how my coming back to sing again for them, the objective, the niyyah, the intention, has been fulfilled, because the bridge is there now, and people are coming, closer and closer to understanding what the original message was, which the media for many years covered in the wrong way. And so it's the only way I can communicate sometimes to these people. It's the only language they speak is the music. And so I have to speak that language for them to hear me.
Does that include people from other faiths too, or just Muslims?
Oh, absolutely. You come to my concert in, for instance, last time it was in Chile. You have a Jew, a Muslim, and a Christian all going. They love and they're together. So it means, Islam means peace. How do we build this peace? First of all, we have to have good intention. But then we have to follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He did not come to start wars. He did not. He came to give the light and to give the mercy to everybody.
Thank you for giving the light on this show, Agenda Awani. Thank you so much, Yusuf Islam. Terima kasih banyak kepada anda yang telah menonton. Hantarkan pandangan anda sendiri kepada pelbagai platform yang Astro Awani ada, Facebook, Instagram dan sebagainya. Malah kami juga di Vine sekarang. Dan anda juga boleh muat turun aplikasi Mudah Alih iOS dan Android supaya anda boleh menonton episod seperti ini secara langsung di gadget Mudah Alih anda. Dan sekian, itu saja masa yang kita ada untuk malam ini. Jangan lupa anda boleh baca sendiri buku ini tentang perjalanan spiritual Cat Stevens ke Yusuf Islam. InsyaAllah kita akan jumpa lagi dalam episod yang lain pula. Selamat malam. Thank you so much.